All right. All right. Well, good morning. Good morning, and welcome to the Will Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. We are live on iHeartRadio this morning. This is part one of our 2014 wrap up. Part two will be tomorrow. It is December 30th, 2014, and this is the beginning of something actually. If you are listening, if you happen to be listening live and you'd like to join the conversation, you can. It took a little work, not too much work, really. I don't, I don't want to think. I don't want you to think that I'm this big techno guru or that iHeartRadio or Spreaker was making it especially difficult. It just took a little ingenuity. I guess they don't want everybody to do it. And other platforms is built in, but so maybe they don't want everybody to do it, but that's okay. We have a call-in number that you can participate in the show right now. Just call 813-699-3729. It's 813-699-3729 and participate in the Folderall. That is, by the way, a Skype number, although it has a Tampa, Florida area code. That is a Skype number. It's 813-699-3729, and we'd love to hear from you. We really would. We just installed this Skype number yesterday. We just got this up and running, and with our help from our friend Shirley Huzar of Urban Game Changers, we got it all tested, and it seems like it works. Yay. It seems like it works. Let's see here. Make sure that we there you go. Yeah, it seems like it does work, so we are excited about that. And we're ready to take calls. 813-699-3729, and you can give us a call here on the Willie Lawson Show, iHeartRadio edition. We are ready to talk about 2014 and all the fun stuff in 2014, from sports to the elections. It was obviously a watershed election just a month or so ago, when it seemed like, frankly, the Republican Party was down for the count. It seemed like the Republican Party was down for the count. And it was going to take a Herculean effort. I mean, a couple of Herculean efforts. I think that in 2012, the Republican Party looked down for the count, but it was going to take a huge effort in 2012 to hold on to the House if you lost the presidency, and they were not able to gain the presidency in 2012. And in 2014, they were able to do something that no one really expected them to do, was to take control of the Senate and then take control of the entire legislative branch. I don't think anybody really expected them to do it, especially with the steamroller effect that the president had when you consider all his wins. And people will say, what wins? I said all of his wins. I didn't say America's wins. I said the president's wins, including the passage of the Affordable Care Act and then the defense thereof of the Affordable Care Act, which seemed to take a lot of wind out of the sails of the Tea Party and the Republican Party. It was going to be a kind of weird 2014 election. What were the Republicans going to run on? What was going to be, and I said it on the TV show that I get to do in the area called Porch Talk Radio. What's their product? What are they selling? Well, you know what? They happen to do the smart thing. They happen to sell vaporware. The Republicans sold vaporware. What they sold was, we're not them. They sold the same thing that some of the Democrats tried to sell. The Democrats tried to sell, I'm not Barack Obama. They were less successful because a lot of times they had voting history that proved that they were indeed Barack Obama. Republicans were able to say that we're not establishment Republicans or we're not Barack Obama. And that was the way they won. No real product, no real vision for the future, no real anything. Now, again, what we're going to learn, I think these Republicans who are in the Senate are going to learn next month, is that a campaign is easier than governance. They're going to find out the very same thing that President Obama has found out in his presidency, that winning elections is easy, governance is hard. And we shall see how the 2015 legislature legislates. Are they going to be able to get things done? Although I don't ever think that is the reason or the purpose for Congress to get, quote, get things done, end quote. The purpose and reason for Congress is to protect individual freedoms, whatever that means. If that means doing nothing, then that means doing nothing. That means going there every day and debating. That's what that means. If that means putting into law safeguards that safeguards personal freedoms by way of the Constitution, then that's what you do. Then that's what's called getting things done. To offer benefits, comforts to the electorate, that is not what's called getting things done. Getting 30 million people insured or getting access to health care is not getting things done. That is not a constitutional protection. Healthcare is not for instance, is not a constitutional protection. Making sure that our military is strong and that we can be safe here in this country, and our interests are protected abroad, that's a constitutional protection that's guaranteed in the Constitution. So that's the kind of stuff that I think that the 2015 Congress should be working for and towards. That's what you should be doing. This is really simple. This is not hard at all. This is very, very simple. This is the kind of stuff that you need to be working on. And if you're not working on that, then what the hell are you doing? This is real simple. Again, if you want to join the conversation here with Will Austin Show here on iHeartRadio, you can give us a call at 813-699-3729. That's 813-699-3729. And I am thrilled that this number is operating, and we've added something. You know what? A lot of people on iHeartRadio and on Spreaker do more traditional podcasts, and what that simply is, and it's not simple to do well, that's for sure, is recording an episode and uploading an episode to a server like on Spreaker or on iHeartRadio. That's a traditional podcast. I am from the school of internet radio, where there is, hopefully there is interaction. Because we have a chat room, and we do have a chat room here on Spreaker, and there's no one in it right now, but there's a chat room, and there's also a way to interact with the host. And today there is a way, and this is our first real day up and rolling with a way to interact with the host by simply calling 813-699-3729. It's 813-699-3729 to get a hold of the host. And that way, if you think that, tell me what you think Congress ought to be doing in 2015 and what you think about the 2014 takeover of Republicans in the Senate, and how that is going to either be a good thing or a bad thing for the country. I'm waiting to hear your comments at 813-699-3729 here on the Will Austin Show here on iHeartRadio. Listen, we're going to take a little break. Go ahead and line up the calls, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you in just a little bit. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Okay, class, let's all sing our 911 song. There's a fire, there's a fire.
Dial 911.
There's a fire, there's a fire.
Dial 911.
If you can't raise an arm,
Dial 911.
if you're suddenly having trouble speaking these words,
Dial 911.
face suddenly goes all numb,
Dial 911.
all of a sudden get the worst headache of your life,
Dial 911.
sudden loss of sight in one or both eyes.
Dial 911.
If you think stroke may be the cause, never wait to call.
Dial 911.
911. Making a difference in someone's life is elementary. Know the sudden signs of stroke and dial 911 immediately if they appear. Time lost is brain lost. For more information, visit powertoendstroke.org. Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzzed driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome to the Willie Lawson Show here. All right, well, we're back. Thank you so much for hanging on and being here this morning. And whenever you listen, it is just 10 o'clock here on the East Coast, but it's 10 o'clock here first on the East Coast. Because we do everything earlier than everybody else in the country. So again, thank you for coming to the Will Lawson Show, and remember, if you are listening and you're not listening live, you want to listen live the next time. You want to pay attention and get the emails or get the tweets or the Facebook statuses, whatever it is, because you get a chance to do something that you might not have gotten a chance to do. Participate in an iHeartRadio show live, because we have a number that you can call, 813-699-3729. That's 813-699-3729, and you can participate in a live iHeartRadio show. It is 2014, a year in review. We talked a little bit about the elections in 2014, because it is the thing that is nearest, that was sort of a big deal, that is nearest to us, happened in November. And what will be the implications? Because that will be the exciting part. What will be the implications? Will we see a big change? Will we see a big change? A big change in governance? Will we see a return, or will the ship sort of start turning back to more a right wing form of governance, or will we continue to slide down the slope into communism, really? Because that's just where it is. That's where it is. I mean, that's just the truth. We could talk about it any other way, but the way that we're heading currently leads to communism. It leads to communism. Seriously, I mean, tell me that it leads to somewhere else. Tell me that it leads to this sort of weird nirvana, this utopia that some of you liberals think it does. Tell me where it leads to, or maybe this utopia that you are looking for is communism for some of you. All right. Let's go back through some of the stories of 2014. After the defense of the Affordable Care Act, one of the actors that was totally involved in this was Kathleen Sebelius. Kathleen Sebelius was head of the and I'm sorry, my computer is not behaving. I hate when my computer misbehaves. She was one of the heads, the head of I was going to say health, education, and welfare, but that's not what it's called anymore. Golly, I'm old. But she was in charge of, there it is, Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, and she pushed through the really rocky and horrendous rollout of the Affordable Care Act, the website. But after doing that, at the end, sign up to healthcare, they met. Is it interesting that they met that they develop over the next 25 hang on a second. I'm sorry. I've got some twice as many cars. Crazy stuff going on. There you go. How in 2014 the target, and this is what libs do. The target of the Affordable Care Act changed. It changed from the number of people who were insured to the number of people who signed up. It changed from the pulling down the cost of healthcare to how many people sign up on the website. I thought that was brilliant, and I thought it was brilliant that a lot of people let that happen. I didn't think it was necessarily all that surprising that the news media let that happen. I didn't think that was so amazing that the news media let that happen because frankly, I think they were going to. Excuse me. But it went from, it's a success because we have a lot of people signed up. As a matter of fact, in the end, the signups for healthcare.gov met their expectations, but it came months and months after some very costly repairs for the website, and it seemed kind of silly to me. It seemed kind of funny, actually, that the thing that held the Affordable Care Act back and was one of the biggest disasters was something as simple, frankly, as a website. And on my show on Blog Talk Radio, I likened the healthcare.gov website to Expedia or Trivago or a travel website where you have basically a place where you can go buy a product, where you can sign up for a product. So you go to Trivago and you sign up for Trivago and you decide that I want to take a vacation to Miami Beach. And you decide when you want to go. And what Trivago does is look out at all the things that you would need to go to Miami Beach. Here's a hotel, and they communicate with the hotels. Here's the airline, and they communicate with the airline. You see how it's the same where the healthcare.gov site, you want to buy health insurance and you put in your information, and it has to communicate with the itself to see if you get some sort of discount. And if you do, it applies that discount after it communicates with the health insurance companies to say, I want this plan, I need this, these are the people in my household, this is what I need. It's really not much different than a travel website that has to communicate with people who are entities that are outside itself and then come back to you with a package, just like Hotwire or Trivago or Expedia. That's what happens with the travel websites, and that's what should happen with, that should be the very same thing with the, should have been the very same thing with healthcare.gov. It's not really any more complicated. They'll tell you that it is, but it's not really any more complicated when you're developing the algorithm than that. However, it was a disaster. It opened up again. Open enrollment began in November, and it seems like a lot of the problems were fixed. Seemed like a lot of the problems were fixed. So it is going to be interesting to see, frankly, now that the Affordable Care Act for a lot of people is off their radar. Can Republicans make a big deal about it? And should Republicans make a big deal about it? That's maybe that's the question of the next 15 minutes. Give me a call at 813-699-3727. Should Republicans make a big deal about it? Is that something that Republicans should do in 2015? Should they make a big deal about the Affordable Care Act, or should they just let it lie? And as things pop up that aren't good, address them and fix them. It's like any other huge government thing. Once you've got people hooked on it, it's really, really tough to get them off of it. It's really hard to get them off of it, and you're going to pay a huge political price for doing so. So Republicans have to decide if they are willing to pay that huge political cost, and it will be huge. I know that there's a lot of my conservative friends who are saying in 2015 what they want is a repeal of the Affordable Care Act. Well, let me help you. That's not going to happen. Although now it can. However, for the next 2 years, Barack Obama is still the president of the United States. So to remind you a little bit about how this all works, is that if the bill for repeal came out of the House and it would get to the Senate floor, the Senate would vote on it and would likely pass it for repeal. It would go to the president's desk and he would veto it immediately. That bill would be dead on arrival at the president's desk. And he would say, well, the Senate is, Congress is still not interested in moving the country forward. They're interested in looking back, settling old scores. That's what it would be. You would be adding fire or firewood to a Democrat party, a Democrat machine that basically is lost. That right now, frankly, is lost. They've got nothing. They have got nothing. They're in a worse position than I think in 2015 and 16 than the Republicans. You know what? I happened to be listening to the Rush Limbaugh show, and whoever was guesting for Rush made a great point. Name a leading Democrat that's younger than 55 years old. They have nothing. They have no Barack Obamas coming this time. They have no Barack Obamas. And somebody said Elizabeth Warren, but Elizabeth Warren is a freak, and she's useless. And I know that people say, well, that's what they said about Barack Obama, but no, Elizabeth Warren is no Barack Obama, although she is attached to the wingnut side, the complete wingnut side of the Democrat Party, no doubt. Again, but she's 65 as well. This is her last go round. In 2 years, when the nominations come out, she'll be 67. This is her last go around too. Now, who else is coming on the Democrat side? Well, no one. I'm curious, though. I'm curious to why Elizabeth Warren kept. She was married to Jim Warren from 1968 to 1978 for 10 years, and she kept his name while she married a new guy in 1980, Bruce Mann. That she didn't change her name to Elizabeth Mann. She kept her. She didn't keep her maiden name. She kept the name of her first husband. I'm not sure why that is. I'm curious. That would be one of my questions. But again, I don't think that Elizabeth Warren is someone that you need to turn the apple cart over about. Is she going to be a force in 2015? No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So again, go back. Name a prominent Democrat younger than 55 years old. Give me a call at 813-699-3729. Is there a prominent Democrat that matters? No, the fact of the matter is that there isn't. And all the people that you know, that most people know about politically are Republicans. Now, that, I don't know if that's going to be the best thing or the worst thing, but it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So should the Affordable Care Act be something that that Republicans spend a lot of time on? Or should Republicans let the faults of it show up? Now, the dangerous part about that is if you say, well, you're just going to let the faults of it rise to the top, and when they don't, what do you do then? If it doesn't have the deleterious effects, the nightmarish effects, the Armageddon-like effects on the economy that you said it would, if it doesn't, what then? What then? But do you waste political capital, energy, and effort trying to bring it down? That's what I think is interesting. I think that's going to be an interesting point. I don't really see much in the next 2 years as it translates to the Affordable Care Act. I just don't see much happening. I don't see a big, huge jump. I don't see a big, huge in January 2015, where Republicans decide that, yeah, this is what we're going to do. I think people like Ted Cruz probably will, but I think as a general play, from Republicans, we won't see a lot of that. There'll be some talk about it, but most of the talk, frankly, will be among those in the liberal media who will try desperately to gin up a fight that that doesn't exist, but they can control the narrative. In the very same way they tried to gin up the fight on the impeachment of Barack Obama, which isn't going to happen either, by the way. There'll be no impeachment of the president. Now, if you're happy about that, give me a call at 813-699-3729. If you're unhappy about that, give me a call at 813-699-3729. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is the Willie Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome to the Willie Lawson Show here.
You up after school. Okay, I got it.
It's easy to take a day for granted. You and your family are connected by routine, and you stick to it. But what if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if your day's routine is disrupted, and you can't reach your family? Have you planned for that? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Today. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Ready.gov. This message brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
Well, good morning. Are you interested in upping your conservative IQ? To be more solid in your conservative thought? To be able to debate at a higher level? To be able to understand at a higher level what conservatism in America is really all about? Well, I can help you now. Alongside us as partners is a new partner, the RedRiverChronicle.com website. The RedRiverChronicle.com website, whose founder is Kevin Batts, understands what conservatism is all about and understands it in the way they write their articles, their commentary, all the educational material that is on the website, put together in a great way, very easy to navigate. So if you want to up your IQ, go to RedRiverChronicle.com. You have discriminating taste and an eye for the impressive. You need to surround yourself with not only beauty, but quality. That is why you are looking for a new construction home for you and your family. Let the experts at New Homes of Tampa Bay guide you to and through your new home purchase process. With access to hundreds of model homes throughout the Tampa Bay area, New Homes of Tampa Bay is sure to find that perfect match of budget and beauty you are looking for. New Homes of Tampa Bay can save you thousands of dollars while costing you nothing. Call us today before you start your new home search. New Homes of Tampa Bay at 813-770-9452 and at www.newhomestpa.com. All right, welcome back to the Will Austin Show here on iHeartRadio. Excuse me, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate that you've listened. We've got we've got a decent number of listens over the past couple of weeks, especially because we don't do a show every day. I am impressed and humbled and heartened, no pun intended, by the number of listens that we have to the show. And also what I'm going to ask you to do for the rest of 2015, for the rest of 2014, which is a day and a half. We can do most anything for a day and a half, right? Is to send this link that you're listening on to as many people as you can, to share it in as many chat rooms, to share it in as many forums, to share it on your Facebook page, on other people's Facebook pages that you manage, pages that you're a member of groups. Send it out in emails, anything that you can. What we want to do is we want to build this. We want to have this be the fastest growing political talk show on iHeartRadio in 2015. We want to get noticed. And if we get noticed, you get noticed. Because we really want people to understand what's really going on and what regular people think about it, what regular, normal, non-crazy people think about it. Speaking of regular, non-crazy, the CIA torture report came out, the Central Intelligence Committee report, and that's the way that the NBC News reports it, is the Central Intelligence Committee, which means the Democrat. The Democrat report came out, released a report in December this month, detailed the harsh interrogation techniques the CIA used after 9/11 terrorist attacks. Okay, now, let's think about that for a second. Let's think about that for just a second. Now, the 9/11 attacks, now, if you remember what the 9/11 attacks encompassed, it encompassed taking at least 3 aircraft that we're aware of, taking over those aircraft, crashing 2 of them into separate towers of the World Trade Center. And 1 crashed in a field in Pennsylvania that we probably think was also headed towards Washington, maybe to the Capitol, maybe to the White House. And we asked, as a country, our intelligence community, our law enforcement community, to find out who was responsible. Who was responsible for this attack? And you know what happened? They did. On my behalf. They found out who was responsible. Now, if you happen to be watching a television as those towers collapsed, and you thought for a second, oh my God, there are people still in there. There are people who are alive who are still in there. I can't imagine why you gave a tinker's damn how they found out. What techniques they used to find out who was responsible. My favorite comment was from, of course, my man Dick Cheney, who said he would do it again in a minute. He would do it again in a minute. In a minute. Yeah, me too. 2014 brought us the VA scandal. This is probably the only bit of bipartisanship that we saw that was of any concern, really. Washington united in bipartisan outrage after reports that veterans nationwide faced long wait lines at VA hospitals. You know what? It's amazing how insulated Washington D.C. must actually be. I've only been there once, but it didn't seem like there was a big force field or a big gate or something there to keep information from getting in and out of DC. They seem to we only spent a night in the hotel, but they seem to have television. They seem to have cell service. I remember having cell service there. That how could the Congress not know what was going on and what had been going on in Veterans Administration hospitals around the country for years? They all seemed kind of surprised. Nobody said on either side of the aisle. No one said, "Well, duh, we've been trying to tell you this for years." And suddenly, well, this can't. Something has to be done. We have to do something. 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 Kind of amazing to me. And as many, we found out, and we saw this happen in Arizona, as many as 40 patients may have died while awaiting care. The outrage was enough to polarize Congress to pass legislation meant to overhaul the healthcare system and hold these in charge responsible for years of mismanagement. Yeah, and the Secretary of the VA, Eric Shazinski, resigned in May, and that was their big fix. And have you heard anything lately? So do you think it's all fixed? Well, of course not. Of course not. Maybe this is something that the new Congress, the new Republican Congress can investigate in 2015. I think that's something that needs to be on the agenda. Majority Leader McConnell, if you're listening. That's something that definitely needs to be on the agenda. You need to check back, circle back around the VA, see how things are going. All right, now in a real show of partisan politics, there was Bridgegate in New Jersey. Bridgegate scandal hits Chris Christie. Fresh off a decisive re-election victory in a purple state, New Jersey Republican Governor Chris Christie found himself engrossed in a vindictive traffic scandal. He still has not been connected to this scandal. On Fort Lee by closing lanes on the George Washington Bridge for a, quote, traffic study late last September. The closures caused massive backups and traffic chaos. Though Christie claims of having no knowledge and plan of the plan have held up. He said he didn't know. Well, the idea was that there was an area there in Fort Lee that didn't support him. So he showed them by closing off some of the lanes of the George Washington Bridge and causing this massive traffic backup, because that's the kind of childish asshole that he is, reportedly. Right? Well, why Governor Christie? Well, why Governor Christie? Because Governor Christie is a person who may have aspirations beyond the governorship of New Jersey in 2016. And anything that you can do to get a hook in and get a hook in early, and to throw mud or tar on early, the better. And that's what we saw. And that's all that was, and that's all that is. And there'll be, and ladies and gentlemen, there will be more of that. There will be more of that coming. As awful as it is, there will be more of that coming. If you see any more of that coming, you can give us a call here, 813-699-3729. It's 813-699-3729. You give us a call here on the Lynn Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. We appreciate we would appreciate hearing from you. Let's see here. What's our next story? Things that are going on now. Michael Brown and Eric Gardner deaths. The shooting death of unarmed black, I love how they say unarmed black teenager when he was 18, when he's an adult. Yes, you happen to be a teenager at 18 by definition, but also by legalities at 18, you are an adult. You can go off to war. You can do everything. You can buy a house. You can sign a contract. You can do everything in this country, but buy a beer, which seems stupid to me. But there you go. Unarmed black male. Michael Brown, and the death of Eric Garner. The press keeps saying that it was a chokehold death, but Mr. Garner did not die of a chokehold. He died of exactly what damn near killed me in January of 2014. He died of congestive heart failure. And I make that point because I think it's an important point to make. Because if I say to you that he died of a chokehold, that says in your brain that you see him being choked out by a New York City police officer. But that didn't happen. And people will call me and tell me, well, there was a video. Okay. But the autopsy showed that he did not have any damage in his trachea. That the same damage that you have when you get choked out. He didn't have any of that. Well, he kept saying I couldn't breathe. Well, if you can say, and I know this, boy, I know this better than anybody. I know this better than all of you. If you can say you can't breathe, you can. Nobody in January of 2014 was choking me out when I told EMS workers and those in the emergency room that I couldn't breathe, because that's not where my discomfort was coming from. My discomfort was coming from I had so much fluid in my lungs that I couldn't get a breath. What I should have said is I can't take a breath. And I couldn't exhale. And it was frightening. It was scary. And yeah, I straight up panicked. Panicked so much, in fact, that I spent 3 days in January in a coma. In twilight coma, anyway. And they brought me out and gave me triple bypass surgery. And here I am, 11 months later, in front of you. So there's the deal. So Mr. Garner did not die of a chokehold. Now, didn't stop those who are interested in one thing and one thing only, their own notoriety, from taking advantage of both of those situations to, of course, escalate their notoriety. Didn't take long for Al Sharpton, in an attempt to escalate his notoriety, to show up on the scene, on both of those scenes, and decide that it was time to take to the streets, to declare that there was a war on young black men. And then an awful thing happened. The truth came out. The truth about the gentle giant myth of Michael Brown. Yes, Michael Brown might have been very, very kind and very loving and caring to his family and his friends. He might have been. A lot of criminals are. A lot of people who do horrible things in a criminal way are very kind and loving and caring to their family and their friends. They are. So I understand the impression that Michael Brown's friends and family had of Michael Brown, but it seemed, as the videotape that everybody alludes to so vehemently in the Eric Garner case, shows something else. Shows young Master Brown going into a convenience store and roughing up the owner and being kind of a jerk. I don't know whether he stole something or not, but apparently the report is that he stole something. Now, I don't think that stealing a pack of cigars should get you gunned down in the street. Let's not get stupid. But when we have evidence that he tried to wrestle the gun away from the police officer, that's the kind of stuff that gets you shot. No cop in America, black, white, Latino, Asian, is going to let you take their gun away from them without a fight. They are not going to get shot with their own damn gun. So if there was a battle, if there was a battle for that police officer's gun, Darrell Wilson's gun, Mike Brown was going to die. That's how it was going to be. This is not the movies where you shoot a guy in the knee and you wound him. This is not reality. This is not how life works. Our lesson, and the lesson for young black men in America, is that if they say stop, stop. If they say get on the ground, get your ass on the ground. If they say put your hands behind your head and interlace your fingers, then you find out how to do that. Why? Because nobody gives a damn what a badass you were as they're burying you. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about what a badass you were and how you fought, how you didn't give up, but if they're putting you in the ground forever. None of that matters. I've told my son this, and I leave the house every day with two things that I want to do. I want to serve God and come home. Period. Those are the two main things I want to do every day. I want to leave here and serve God and come home. That's my prime directive. So if you know what, and if it takes submitting to the demands of a police officer, whether he be a racist bastard or not, in order to accomplish one of those goals, then that is what I'll do. I want to come home and be a father to my son. I want to come home and be a husband to my wife. That's more important to me. So in 2014, if we have learned anything in the black community, we better learn that lesson. That we can live to fight another day. But the idea is that we have to learn to live. All right. Here, another story in 2014. If you want to get in on this discussion, you give us a call at 813-699-3729. That's 813-699-3729. Is the president deciding that he's going to act on immigration all by himself. A surge of unaccompanied minors crossed the Mexican border brought America's immigration crisis to the forefront this summer. The president said it delayed the executive action on immigration that he vowed to take after the House Republicans refused to vote on a comprehensive legislation passed in 2013. He ended up announcing his unilateral actions after the November midterm elections, infuriating Republicans who said that it was an overreach of executive authority. It led to a budget showdown, with the Republicans eventually agreeing to fund most of the... There was no showdown. This is from the NBC website. There was no freaking showdown. It was a laydown from the beginning. Republicans were not going to challenge. Again, this is, and I'm glad I'm reading this year in review off the NBC News site, because this is what the leftist media wants to do. They want to gin up a battle that never existed. There was no showdown. There was no compunction by Republicans in the House or the Senate, especially now, because there hasn't been any real change in the personnel, to have a big battle, big showdown, threatening to shut down the government over anything. It never existed. It was never there. But you remember that our friends at Liberty News went down actually to the border, where they call the immigration invasion, where there were a number of unaccompanied children who weren't coming necessarily from Mexico. These children were coming from places in Central America. They were being bussed. They were being loaded in trucks and being dropped off at the Mexican border, and being told that they could walk into the United States, and they did just that. By the thousands. And so much, in fact, that we were, as a country, gathering buses and transporting these children to other parts of the country. When what we should have been doing is busing them to delousing stations, cleaning them up, giving them a nice new set of clothes and some shoes, and finding out where they lived and sending them home. 813-699-3720. 3729. I'll remember this soon. 813-699-3729 is a call-in number. You can call into the Will Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. So give us a call. Let us know what you think. And let's see here. Make sure that I haven't missed any calls. Making sure I haven't missed any calls here on our new on our new system. Yeah, I don't think so. We tried it out with my friend Shirley Huzar yesterday, and it worked perfectly. And I just don't see why it wouldn't work right now. So there you go. 813-699-3729 is the number. Give us a call. All right. Let's see here. We're going to we'll take a little break. We'll be back with the NBC News 2014 year in review, where the last four things are: the Tea Party loses to the establishment, or does it? Ebola, the rise in ISIS, and of course the GOP's midterm wave. If you want to get in on anything we've talked about already, or things that we're going to talk about here in our last segment, you're welcome to by giving us a call at 813-699-3729. That's 813-699-3729. You can call the Will Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome to the Willie Lawson Show here.
Is that a faucet running?
Nope, that's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest.
It is?
Yeah, forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink. The water comes straight from the forest to us. In fact...
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
How do trees clean the air?
They soak up the dirty air on their leaves, branches, and trunks, which means clean air for us.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yep. But the forest does more than give us clean air and water. It gives us shade for hot days, birds to listen to, and trees to climb.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know how cool the forest could be. Hey, let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Okay, class, let's all sing our 911 song. There's a fire, there's a fire.
Dial 911.
There's a fire, there's a fire.
Dial 911.
If you can't raise an arm,
Dial 911.
if you're suddenly having trouble speaking these words,
Dial 911.
face suddenly goes all numb,
Dial 911.
all of a sudden get the worst headache of your life,
Dial 911.
sudden loss of sight in one or both eyes.
Dial 911.
If you think stroke may be the cause, never wait to call.
Dial 911.
911. Making a difference in someone's life is elementary. Know the sudden signs of stroke and dial 911 immediately if they appear. Time lost is brain lost. For more information, visit powertoendstroke.org. Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
You have discriminating taste and an eye for the impressive. You need to surround yourself with not only beauty, but quality. That is why you are looking for a new construction home for you and your family. Let the experts at New Homes of Tampa Bay guide you to and through your new home purchase process. With access to hundreds of model homes throughout the Tampa Bay area, New Homes of Tampa Bay is sure to find that perfect match of budget and beauty you are looking for. New Homes of Tampa Bay can save you thousands of dollars while costing you nothing. Call us today before you start your new home search. New Homes of Tampa Bay at 813-770-9452 and at www.newhomestpa.com. Welcome to the Willie Lawson Show. All right. Thank you for coming to the Willie Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. We appreciate you being here. Golly, an hour has flown by in our new format here on iHeartRadio. The call-in number is 813-699-3729. That's 813-699-3729. And that's a Skype call, so you'll have to dial the 1-813-699-3729. That's how you reach me, and that's how we get to have a conversation, because that's what this is all about. This is what it's all about. Can we have conversation? In the words of a great comedian, Joan Rivers, who passed away this year, can we talk? Can we talk? That's what it's all about. All right, that's how we make things better. And as we go through 2014, the establishment beats the Tea Party and GOP primaries. Now, one of the strategies invoked by basically and this strategy came from the Campaign for Liberty people, the Ron Paul supporters, is that if you have a Republican in a district that you disagree with, what you do in order to make that change is that, and you use the system, you primary them. You are more likely to beat them in a GOP primary than you are in the general election. Because in the general election, you'd have to support somebody whose views are completely antithetical to yours, for the most part. So the way to make that change is to primary them and to beat them on a local level, especially if we're talking about House races. I love House races. House races are local elections with national implications. And that's exactly what some Tea Party folks did, especially after House Majority Leader Eric Cantor was primaried by David Bratt in Virginia last June. Chris McDaniels forced incumbent Senator Thad Cochran into a runoff in the Mississippi GOP primary, but Cochran did hold on. And the idea is, and the reason you do, and the reason Tea Party folks and Campaign for Liberty people are doing it, they're trying to get, and I understand, the most conservative candidate to run in the general election that they can, and that's the way they do it. They've understood, and we found out that running third party or running libertarian is not a path to victory. It's not a path to victory. Most libertarians in most of the House elections this year got somewhere between 4 and 6% of the vote. That's not a plan. That's not a victory plan. That's an also ran. And for the most part, as we saw, it wasn't enough to change the course of the election. It wasn't enough to even to play, I think, in my mind, to play the spoiler role even. So the way to do it is, if you're upset with your Republican Congress critter, run a candidate against them in the primaries. But have an eye. This is why it's hard. Have an eye for the general election, because one of the fears of Virginia Republicans was that, great, you defeated Eric Cantor, but are you going to be able to hold on to the seat? David Bratt was able to do just that. So you have to have an eye for the general election if you're deciding to primary a Republican candidate. I wonder in 2015 and 2016 if we'll see the very same tactics used against Democrats that seem to be faltering in Congress at this point, used by the more liberal Democrats that may support someone like Elizabeth Warren. All right. Something that is impossible to ignore, that was impossible to ignore in 2014, it was Ebola. Comes to the U.S. and impacts midterm races, and it kind of did. Mild panic set in after a Liberian man in Dallas died of the disease, stoking fears that Ebola was heading from West Africa straight to the USA. To the U.S. A handful of other cases had politicians and the public questioning whether the country was prepared for Ebola, ensuring it became a campaign issue in the 2014 elections. However, it really did not. It really did not. It was a concern. It was a concern on talk radio. It was a concern here on the Will Lawson Show, on iHeartRadio and Blog Talk Radio. We did talk about it on our TV show, Porch Talk Radio on TV, that airs in the Tampa Bay area, that we'll be back on in January on Saturday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We did talk about it. You have to talk about it because Ebola, hemorrhagic fever, is extremely scary. And because it has been led to survive on the other side of the planet, we have not seen it here. Now, the other truth is, and what the Ebola panickers won't admit to you, is that Ebola has not faced first world medicine. Ebola has only faced third world medicine third world cleanliness, third world precautions. Ebola, as a disease, has not faced first world preparations, first world antibiotics, first world medicine, first world anything really. Anything that Ebola has faced has been transferred from first world into third world situations. Yes, there were 2 Ebola deaths that we know of. Yes. However, others that had the disease were indeed cured. I think that we have this impression that Ebola kills everything it touches and everyone it touches, but that's never really been the case. That's never been the case. Yes, it has a pretty good batting average on the number of people that it kills, that it touches, about 80%. But it's about 80% in third world situations. We have not seen it. We have not seen it in first world situations, where general health, as I sniffle and sniffle here, but general health is better. Where general precautions on cleanliness is better. Where sewage treatment is better. Where the way that we dispose of our dead is better. Safer. Where it is not in third world situations. So generally speaking, it was going to be better. It was going to be harder for Ebola to have the very same effect that it had in West Africa here in the United States. And it didn't. It didn't. Well, whenever there is whenever the United States decides to take out a regime somewhere, it always creates a power vacuum that allows another regime or something else to take its place. We saw that with Muslim Brotherhood in the Arab Spring, and now from the Muslim Brotherhood, its bigger, badder, younger brother, ISIS, showed up. The U.S. had first debated if and how to respond to Islamic militants taking hold of large swaths of Iraq and Syria. But once ISIS capabilities and brutality became clear, and it became clear by showing beheadings on YouTube. Beheadings. Not beheadings like you think. You think that someone took a big sword like Ali Baba and with one big swipe off went their head. No, knives that had blades that were 6 to 8 inches long, and while somebody hacked the head off of another individual. Of Americans. It took a while before the president would act, but then there were airstrikes to kill some of the militants and some of the top ISIS leaders. But this is these people are like roaches. Yes, you may be able to get rid of some of them, or even a lot of them, but it's so deep underground that there's no uniform that they wear, that it's very easy to take off the mask and walk amongst you. Frankly, I think that in 2015, if you've got to be paranoid, if you want to be paranoid, if you're looking to be paranoid, if you're looking to be afraid of something, I'm not. Then be afraid of ISIS. ISIS can be walking amongst you. ISIS is more dangerous than Ebola. You can't be cured of a beheading. You can't be cured of ISIS. You can be cured of Ebola. All right, let's see here. Let's go to number one news story of the 2014 was the GOP midterm wave. Now, it is normal that the party that is out of power does well in midterm elections. It is normal. But this is an interesting, it isn't necessarily unexpected. Not necessarily unexpected that Republicans did well in midterm elections. What was unexpected was that they were able to take over the Senate, pick up 9 seats in the Senate, securing a majority in the Senate come 2015. They will control 247 seats in the House, giving the Republicans their largest majority in 83 years. And with that majority comes a lot of expectations. Now, I think that some of those expectations need to be curbed, especially when we're talking about in the next 2 years. I think in the next 2 years that the majority in the House needs to be used to set up what you're going to do in 2016 and 17. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of change in the next 2 years. And I think that conservatives and Republicans are going to have to be smart, strategic, patient as we set up 2016 and 2017. That sometimes you have to wait. And sometimes you have to be patient. And I think this is one of those times. Because now you indeed have control. Now it's keeping control. And moving forward. Moving forward in a way, but you can only move forward if you indeed have set up the groundwork. And that's what 2015 and 16 will be about, I believe, or should be about. If we have the same sort of knee-jerk, reactionist thought pattern in 2015, it'll be very soon in 2016 where we will have lost both houses and possibly not gain the White House and be in a worse situation than we are now. You got to be smart about it. Have to be smart about it. All right, listen, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for coming to the Will Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. We appreciate you being here. Remember that now we have a call-in number that maybe that you were in a car and you didn't get a chance to write it down. If you go to the WillLawsonShow.com website, you'll see the number. It's 813-699-3729. That's 813-699-3729, and I'll be looking forward to hearing from you. All right, until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.